Hi, I'm Shanika Center, and I am the Virtual Content Specialist for Middle School Science with the ENL focus. So this is the second video on how to use home language as a resource in your science classes. This video is going to focus primarily on two different strategies, the use of background texts and translanguaging. So when you're working with multilingual learners, you want to make sure that you activate their background knowledge before introducing a new topic. So a way you can do that is by providing students with a background text. And when I say text, I mean any type of reading, any type of video, pictures, or some sort of audio that really give students some of the information that they're going to need to push their learning forward and learn the main point of the next lesson. When you are picking a text, you want to make sure that it's not filled with arbitrary details. You want to make sure that the main point of the lesson is concise and clearly articulated so students are not confused by the text, but they're provided with like a step up for when they come into that lesson. If the text is written, you want to make sure that it's at the student's native language literacy level. Sometimes students have different literacy levels in the target language and their native language. It's really important that you're appropriately assigning or giving text to students so the text supports their learning and does not discourage or frustrate them further. If the text is a video, make sure that the subtitles or the audio are in the native language, and the other component can be in English. Again, you want to make sure that you're making connections between the native language and the target language or English. So two websites that I use for background text, Newsella and YouTube. I'm sure you're familiar with both of these resources. I'm going to show you how to use each of these in the grade 8 unit 3 lessons. So specifically for the Newsella, I'm going to use this lesson 68. Newsella, if you're not familiar with it, is an amazing resource. It has tons of articles about any topic you could possibly think of, and it's really user-friendly. So if you go to search, I looked at this lesson objective, and I wanted students to have some background knowledge on selective breeding. So I'm going to look for a background text that supports their background knowledge in selective breeding so they can fully access this content in this lesson. So go to Newsella, I type in selective breeding and then search. So I always start with the first article, and already you can see that this article is in Spanish and in English, which is, if your students speak Spanish, is an amazing resource. So to make things quicker for me, I put the English down to the lowest literacy level, and then I just quickly skim it to make sure that it has the gist of the lesson's understanding or objective. So this one looks pretty good. It talks about how fruits are selectively bred for certain traits. So if your students speak Spanish, this is really helpful. You can go to Spanish, and then you can change the literacy level in Spanish too. So your students can be assigned this article. There's also a read aloud portion that students can use if they prefer to listen to the content instead of read it. If you have a variety of native languages in your class, I always suggest to use YouTube. YouTube, because their videos automatically provides great visuals for students, and there's an auto translate feature that supports a large majority of languages spoken. So this is an example from lesson 69, and this lesson has a video provided. So again, these scaffolds and supports can be used in any grade level and in any unit or lesson. I'm just specifically looking at this unit 3 from grade 8. So I just linked the video here. So this is video that was linked in lesson. So unfortunately, this video does not have a closed caption option. So and this is the video you are going to show in class. So what I do when there is a suggested video and I want to provide students with a background text, I will look at the videos provided on the side here to see if there are any other videos that are short and look interesting for my students. So because this unit talks about how animals and organisms can adapt and change based on climate change, I'm going to click this video here. And this is a TED Ed video with really great visuals. So I'm, of course, going to watch this myself. But before I do, I'm going to click the closed captions, go to settings, and then change the subtitle version. So if your students speak Arabic, you can change it to Arabic. And then I'm also going to slow down the playback speed so students can better hear what is being said in the video. And then, of course, I would assign this to students. It's also really great if you show students how to change the captions themselves, or change it to their language, and also change the speed. So YouTube, again, is a really helpful resource when providing background text for students. So the third support that I'm going to quickly discuss is TransLanguaging. So TransLanguaging is a phenomenon that people use when they're trying to use all of their linguistic repertoire. So students often translanguage when they're learning a language and developing proficiency in the target language, when they don't have a word for something. You'll often see this too with people who are bilingual and they switch in and out of two languages. So translanguaging can be done verbally. It can be done when you're writing lesson notes, when you're writing text for students. So the way that you can do this is identify which words students should know at this point in the lesson. So in this case, I would refer back to the words that I explicitly taught and keep those words in English. Then I would translate the words that students do not know in English, and I would translate those words into their L1. It's always important that you keep the English translation available as well. So again, students are constantly making those connections between the target language and their native language. So here's an example of translanguaging. So I just gave a random example, but again, this can be used for instructions. It can be used in text. It can be used for questioning. Again, this use of English only, the structures inside the cell determine its function, and then the use of translanguaging. So I pulled these words from a lesson that I taught. The words that are in English are ones that I actually used the dictionary protocol for. Again, you can decide which words you want to keep in native language and which words you want to put in target language. But remember that the point of translanguaging is eventually to move students into use of English only. So again, these are the same tips that I used in the first video, but I will reiterate them again here. So it's really important that you know your students, especially as you're selecting background texts and teaching students how to use subtitles and translanguaging. You want to know what students know in their L1 or have a general idea of their levels. Some students do have developing literacy in their L1, or maybe Cypher/Slife students. So it's really important, again, to leverage their native language to support their learning. You don't want to make them more frustrated, and you don't want to make them upset about any language that they do not know. Again, be consistent. So yes, we love variety, but it's really nice to have established routines and practices to support that language learning. Third one, I cannot reiterate this enough. I cannot say this enough. You must take scaffolds away. If students are showing proficiency in English and they're not relying so heavily on the dictionaries or the background text or the translanguaging, you need to start pulling them away. We often hinder students' learning by continuously giving them scaffolds, even when they don't need them anymore. So please pull the scaffolds away once students demonstrate that they do not need them. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me at scenter@schools.newyorkcity.gov, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks.